have a secret to share with you guys. Sagittarians might not actually be afraid of commitment. What they are afraid of is committing to the wrong life, person, or situation that is not actually purposeful or meaningful to them. In today's video, we're going to uncover a much deeper side of the Sagittarius Sun sign that no one talks about. Hola my beautiful dreamers, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Marisa LaBlue, and on this channel we merge everything cosmic advice with everything self-development to become our dream selves every day. If that sounds like something you're interested in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss future videos like this one. And be sure to follow me on social media platforms so you get more background astrology and lifestyle content, as well as check out the link to my site where you can get one-on-one readings and download my free astrology cheat sheet. In today's video, we'll be talking all about the Sagittarius Sun sign. What this means is at the time that you were born, the sun was moving through the Sagittarius sign. This is not the same as Sagittarius moon, Mercury, rising, etc., which I have videos on all of those that will be linked for you if you're interested in. But we'll start the video with an introduction to the sun in astrology and what that means, so that way you have a deeper understanding of the sun itself, which will therefore make you understand your Sagittarius sun so much more moving forward. Then we'll cover general traits of someone who has a Sagittarius sun and finish the video with a couple empowering tips, because I do not like to just dump the information on you. I like to give you actionable steps to potentially help your self-development journey as a Sagittarius sun. First, let's talk about what the sun means in astrology. The sun is one of the 2 luminaries in astrology that are considered one of the 9 planets in astrology that shape who we are. The sun is considered the planet of our individual identity and the ego self. The placement of the sun in our birth chart governs our identity as an individual, what makes us unique and separates us from everyone else. The symbol of the sun actually showcases this, as the circle itself represents infinity and everything being intertwined, whereas the dot in the middle represents the separate self. It is through our sun sign that we're able to uncover our personal identity, who we truly are at our core, without the influence of anything or anyone else. It indicates where we find our sense of personal power, purpose, and overall direction in life. The sun gives life, so the sun sign is what gives us life, what makes us feel fulfilled, and what makes us glow. The sun is literally where we derive our life force energy. Now for the general traits of somebody who has a Sagittarius sun sign. It's important to remember that Sagittarius is the mutable fire sign ruled by Jupiter and symbolized by the centaur. Number 1, Sagittarius is often experience a life heavily revolving around transmuting the lessons of young adulthood into something wise and greater than themselves. If you're not aware, Sagittarius rules the 9th house in astrology, which is considered the house of higher knowledge and exploration. It's also a transitionary house from adulthood into older age. So ultimately, the theme of a Sagittarius sun or Sagittarius placements as a whole is that transition from the experiences you've had in your youth and transmuting them into something teachable and wise. In this part of the chart, if you look at a zodiac wheel, it's when we're starting to move into how things transcend ourselves, how we ourselves turn our experiences, our knowledge, etc., into something that is greater than just our own life. It serves something outwards with purpose. So Sagittarius suns experience a large theme in their lives where they feel that they need to make inward experiences, things that they've learned, wisdom that they've gained, they need to transmute it outwards into something that serves a greater purpose. But on the other hand of this, if this Sagittarius sun is somebody who doesn't take their experiences in order to gain wisdom and evolve this nature of theirs, what can happen is they get stuck in the younger adulthood cycle and they become somebody who is stuck in kind of reckless, careless, impulsive, insatiable activities in their life. Maybe there's someone who gets caught up in the party scene, in repeated relationships, kind of keeping themselves in debt, like extremely bad debt, in trouble with debt collectors their whole lives because they're spending money way too flamboyantly, etc. But ultimately, if they start off being this type of person, like if you're a Sagittarius sun, it's likely that you had some chapter of your life, or maybe you're living the chapter now, where you were in an extremely potentially unhealthy explorative phase, but ultimately those experiences turn into the wisdom that you have that nobody else can have, because you usually live out such unique experiences where you might recite your life to people and they'll be like, "You did what?" You experienced what? Nobody will know, because you tend to not only transmute it into some type of wisdom, but you also tend to have this positive outlook that often beams from being connected to the experiences of young adulthood and knowing that there's so much magic in the journey. There's so much magic in life. There's more to life than just being rigid and cold and a proper, responsible adult. And you tend to know that, which is another reason your perspectives that you gain, that you can teach others if you decide to, have such a unique outlook and a unique perspective and tone to them, because they are not painted with the jaded rigidity that a lot of adults will exemplify. So that is ultimately your magic and the theme that you may encounter in your life. Number 2. There's an inherent need for continuous expansion and experiencing things that feel quote unquote larger than life, and or creating those things yourself. The ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion. If you think about Jupiter, it's the biggest planet in our solar system. It represents abundance and fortune and the way that you expand in your life. Jupiter is heavily connected to the god Zeus as well. So if you kind of think of the nature of Zeus, someone who is a larger than life energy, can sometimes turn that larger than life energy into an unhealthy, insatiable, and greedy personality. You're looking at some of the light and dark themes of Jupiter itself and the way that can translate into Sagittarius. Sagittarians themselves often carry this larger than life magnetic energy, making them a powerful attractor of all types of people and experiences in their life, which they often welcome. People from all walks of life usually love Sagittarians, or they attract extreme amounts of envy, because one thing about a Sagittarius is I can almost guarantee that Sagittarians have gone through some really crazy experiences in their life, whether it's because of their own doing or just because of this magnetic energy. They've attracted some crazy situations, whatever the case may be, but you would probably never know it. Unlike a Scorpio, for example, Scorpios usually do wear their scars on their sleeves, and you can usually tell in their eyes, in their aura, their demeanor, that they carry something darker, that they've probably seen a lot of things or been through a lot, you just don't know what. But Sagittarius can come off quite transparently positive and open and optimistic and energetic and lively, and it can trigger envy in people that think the Sagittarius has never been through anything and the Sagittarius has probably had a fortunate, easy life. And on the outside looking in, Sagittarians can appear very fortunate, very lucky. And whereas this may be true, everything doesn't come without a cost. Even having like a good fortune overall can come with a cost. There's always an energetic trade-off. There's always some type of challenge around a certain experience. That is just the laws of nature, really. In this powerful attractor energy, they can easily attract a lot of envy and a lot of admiration. But if there's one thing to be true about Sagittarius, they often invite these energies in, whether good or bad, because they truly believe in the magic of experiencing everything and everybody. And even though this can turn into almost a spiritual bypassing, if you will, where they might be like,
"Oh, well, sorry, I can't be tied down. I have to experience things fully and I have to experience things spiritually."
And sometimes it can turn into almost a runaway or escapism. Mind you, Jupiter was the traditional ruler of Pisces before Neptune was discovered. So Jupiter is connected to an escapist tendency. You might escape into experiences and into travel and into people or into certain vices. You may have an insatiable taste for a good vice if you're not careful, but you ultimately welcome all experiences, good and bad. And you tend to be connected to this spiritual knowledge, this inherent knowledge that every experience serves a purpose in the journey. And Having colorful experiences in your life can only add to your wisdom and your power and your sovereignty, which is very important to you. You tend to have a free-spirited nature, which is the spirit of Jupiter and the ninth house as well. So you cannot really be tied down. If you are to be committed or tied down to something, it has to serve a deeper purpose. And a lot of times you have to go through the experiences that you invite in, good or bad, to discover what is purposeful to you. And this may take time, and that's okay. That's actually something that I encourage you to embrace, as long as it doesn't turn into an unhealthy cycle of vices and reckless behavior, etc. Number 3, they might find that they hold a lot of energy that not only needs healthy physical outwards transmutation, but it needs fun, joyful expression. Sagittarius is one of the 3 fire signs, and fire is the element of vitality, life force, and physical movement. I know that if you're a Sagittarius Sun watching this, or you know anybody who is, you probably know if you've met any amount of Sagittarians that they are definitely the type that are drawn to very vibrant, stimulating, fun events such as music festivals or parades, concerts. They're probably a strong concert goer for sure. I think almost every Sagittarius I've met has had an obsession with going to raves and music festivals. But this is actually really important for them. Again, as long as they're not getting caught in a very unhealthy lifestyle. Whereas a lot of times when it comes to the fire signs, I talk about physical transmutation being through exercise, which yes, Sagittarius absolutely benefits from exercise. And of course, anyone watching this might be like, everybody benefits from exercise. No, what I mean is the fire signs have to move the body physically, because they are ignited with the element of fire, and the way that they move the body really does matter, even more so than everybody else. But for Sagittarius specifically, to really get a full, satisfying expression and transmutation of that fire and that spark that lives within them, they have to be doing something regularly that they feel is joyful and creative and fully expressive. And Sagittarians definitely have kind of an eccentric creative streak. They are mutable, which we'll talk about in a moment. So they also have this creative streak about them where they feel like they have to express their free-spirited nature, their free-spirited style, and who they are. And music festivals are a place where they love to do that. And if you're not someone who's a Sagittarius that enjoys public spaces, you may really enjoy dance. Maybe dancing on your own, going to a dance class, something like that could be amazing for anyone who's a Sagittarius Sun. But all in all, they just hold so much vibrant, expressive energy that needs to be placed outwards in some way. And this is what can also connect to their magnetic energy, to their aura that attracts a lot of attention, because they are constantly outputting such a vibrant energy that others can't help but want to interact with and consume. Again, if you're not a Sagittarius that considers yourself extroverted, or you definitely don't like very vibrant, overwhelming, overstimulating places or events, then for you, your physical transmutation will definitely be through mini adventures, mini journeys, planning a day to take a little road trip up to a special hiking trail that you might enjoy. And if you're someone watching this that's going, that doesn't sound good to me, I just want to lay in bed. No. One thing I always say is that your zodiac sign does not always tell you what you naturally are good at or what you naturally desire. A lot of times it tells you what you need, what your soul needs. And especially when we're talking about the sun, we're talking about the soul. Having many adventures, getting out of the mundane and the monotony of everyday life is essential for you. And if you're just laying in bed, scrolling on your phone or playing video games or whatever, you are not fueling that adventurous side of your spirit. And it needs to be fueled and expressed in some way for you to start feeling happier and to feel more free, more inspired, to light that spark, keep that fire ignited. So going on many adventures, maybe going to like bookstores, because you are the sign of higher knowledge. So maybe like taking a whole day to go out and explore could be a fun physical transmutation of this energy as well. Number 4, Transition, change, and new experiences are actually some of the most powerful fuel for keeping a Sagittarius spark alive. Sagittarius is one of the mutable signs in astrology. The mutable signs are these signs that are good with change. A lot of times they need change, and they appreciate variety of some kind. With Sagittarius, one of the worst places they can find themselves is in monotony and stagnancy, whether it's caused by an environment they're in, a person that they're around, or just them themselves. I actually think it's kind of fun to refer to Sagittarius Suns as the gambler energy, and I know gambling has a very negative connotation, but hear me out. The way I see the gambler energy of Sagittarius is actually very fun and very powerful, because Sagittarius is a quick moving, mutable fire sign that is all about exploration, learning from different experiences. And as we're going to get into the next trait, they are the sign symbolized by the centaur, which holds a bow and arrow and is always arching. Okay, it's always aiming to a target. And all of that combined makes the gambler energy apparent, because they're the type who needs to have the audacity to bet on themselves and to take the risk. Sagittarians are very much the type that benefit from taking risk. Risk is like their playbook, okay? And granted, obviously this can go south. Any zodiac sign we talk about, when we talk about what their light traits are and what is their power, there's always going to be a shadow side to that. But I digress. They have a powerful way of being able to take risk. And if they are not willing to bet on themselves, bet on their lives, and take the risks outside of their comfort zone and gamble on life, if you will, your inspiration dies, your feeling of purpose, if you have any feeling of purpose, your desire to move forward, to learn, any of the things that fulfill a Sagittarian soul, those things will dwindle. With that being said, I'm not saying that you should just throw all caution to the wind and gamble on life. What I am saying is that this is necessary for your soul, but especially if you practice proper change, and healthy movement with a healthy sense of discipline attached to it, then you can become one of the most powerful signs in astrology. You can become one of the most successful and one of the most abundant. I always consider Jupiter and Sagittarius energy to be some of the biggest attractors when it comes to manifestation. Almost no one can visualize the way a Sagittarius is able to visualize. And it's because you have the ability to gamble on something that others cannot see. You have the ability to see the opportunity and see the possibilities that others cannot see. A lot of people may roll their eyes at you and be like, oh my gosh, here they go again. They're going to do that and they're going to get themselves in trouble or whatever. But you know that life can be so much more rich and so much greater than how a lot of people see it, how a lot of people perceive everyday life. So you have to have the audacity to follow that instinct, because that instinct, that little spark that speaks to you and goes, there's so much more to life. There's so much more to life. You know, take the risk, take that leap, take that first step. You should listen to that voice, because that is the Sagittarius soul speaking to you. Number 5, Sagittarians can be seen as lofty and unrealistic, but one can argue that their ability to visualize and manifest is being misunderstood as delusion. The symbol for Sagittarius is the centaur, a half man, half horse that carries a bow and arrow and is always in the archery position. This symbolizes the tendency for Sagittarius to always be aiming towards a distant target. Whereas you could have just a human archer standing and pointing at a target, the centaur is so much more significant and so much more representative of the magic of Sagittarius. You have the centaur, which you have the lower chakras, the sacral and root chakras, as the horse's body. This horse's body is instinctive. It moves instinctively. It runs and gallops and everything instinctively. It also represents the free spirit connected to the animalistic root sacral chakras that Sagittarius holds. But the upper half of the body, the higher chakras, are the human body. So they are also connected to the crown chakra, that higher intuition and the intellect associated with being human. And so all of that gathers together to turn into the arrow that they aim. From the animal side, the animal instinct, to the human intellect and the higher knowledge, the higher wisdom and intuition, it all transmutes into that arrow and where it's going to aim. So I see it as the connector between earthly and natural things and turning it into something greater or beyond comprehension, taking things to another level or another tier, connecting what is tangible to the intangible or the distant before it's actualized into reality. This goes back to what I was saying in the previous trait about Sagittarius being the gambler energy. Because they're willing to bet on and gamble, they have a unique ability to recognize where they can gamble and bet on something that is not yet in front of them. Whereas a lot of people might be the type to only see it to believe it. Things don't manifest that way. The things that we see around us, such as this camera that I'm filming on, someone had to imagine that first and then learn how to bring it into fruition. It does not just appear and then suddenly I believe that a camera exists, you know? To be a visionary, to be a person who actually creates something of purpose and of value, you have to be able to visualize, not just take everything at face value. And Sagittarius has that magic. It has that magic of being able to connect tangible energies to what is intangible and turn it into something tangible, because they have the magical ability and skill to see a target that is so far off in the distance that only they can zone in on it and aim for it. The only place that they might struggle because of that is because they struggle to zoom in. They might struggle to zoom in on the smaller details and might overlook a lot of the details that it takes along the way. And this can be the one thing that keeps them from actually achieving and hitting that long distant target, because there are a lot of little things that go into hitting a long distant target. You don't just hit the target because you aimed at it, right? And Sagittarius can sometimes get caught up in this mindset that all they have to do is aim at the target and they're going to get it. And so they'll bypass, or they'll try to do things the easier way and bypass a lot of the necessary details, which contributes to the failure or the struggles that they may encounter along the way that keep them in a stagnant loop, and might even contribute to self-doubt as time goes on. So ultimately, if a Sagittarius can find the way to zoom in on these details and learn how to take things one step at a time and build towards that target, this is truly a Sagittarian's ultimate power to manifest what it is that they see happening in their lives. Now, for a couple empowering tips if you have a Sagittarius Sun or know somebody who does. Number 1, promise yourself to never allow stagnancy or monotony in your life, while also not losing sight of healthy discipline. As a Sagittarius, it is very good to not be overly bound or overly connected and relying on one place, one thing, one person. Exploration is truly not just the desire of your soul, but it is a need. Even if you feel like you don't want to explore, you don't want to leave your comfort zone, maybe you're in a relationship that you're in because you're afraid to leave it behind for various reasons. It gives you a sense of comfort, or it makes you feel like you have some amount of control in your life. Maybe past experiences have made you feel out of control or irresponsible, and now you're overcorrecting. Whatever it may be, as a Sagittarius Sun, your soul consistently calls for exploration, for experiencing life outside of the comfort zone. And it doesn't have to be something crazy. When we talk about experiencing life outside of our comfort zones, our minds tend to go to something so dramatic. I'm not telling you to skydive or up and move to a different country. I'm telling you to take small steps to go outside of your comfort zone. Maybe you think your comfort zone right now is going through the same routine every day where you go to work, you get home, you eat dinner, you shower, you watch your one favorite show, and then you go to sleep. But something inside you just feels uninspired, it feels blah, and you kind of just go with it. Or perhaps your soul just feels extremely heavy and you, for some reason, feel like you just can't leave your situation. You can. Taking the small steps and necessary steps to rediscover your autonomy, your free-spiritedness, your inherent power as a Sagittarius will be essential to living a life that feels fulfilled, to developing your journey in a way that feels purposeful to you. Purpose is very much a theme word for Sagittarius. And when I say it's good to not be overly bound to any one thing, place, or person, I'm not saying to indulge commitment problems. I'm just saying that, again, you may be overcorrecting for some reason. really look at yourself and see if there are traumas or experiences you had where you feel like you have to overcorrect how you're being now in order to kind of make up for the sins of your past, because Sagittarius can be a very spiritual sign. They're often interested in religion or some other type of spiritual constructs or ancient practices, and that's something that they tend to study. But if they're not careful, because they're a fire sign and fire is very connected to the ego, Jupiter can also be very connected to the ego, they might find that it becomes, the ways in which they overcorrect become actually something that's meant to satiate their ego. Like they feel, okay, well, if I do this, then that makes up for what I did in the past. Or if I do this, then that puts me above, and that means that I'm achieving this position of wisdom and hierarchy that I desire. But really, it's just feeding the ego. It's not actually feeding the spiritual fulfillment and the purpose and your soul at the end of the day. On the other hand, you may need to learn how to dial down some of your insatiability and actually instill a bit of healthy discipline into your life. If you're someone who is in an era of overindulging rather than underindulging, learning where your limits are at will allow you to thrive in your life, because keeping yourself in a constant state of insatiability with things such as alcohol, sugar, etc. is only going to kill your soul as time goes on, just as much as monotony and stagnancy would. Embrace your desire to express yourself in a way that feels authentic, free, and rebellious even. Sagittarians that have embodied their eccentric nature often have a very interesting way of expressing themselves, whether it's through their actions, through their actual fashion sense, whatever it may be. Embrace that. Embrace it. Wear it proudly, because you have a naturally rebellious nature because you want more knowledge. You don't accept things typically at face value. You believe that there's so much more to everything. And again, you see the distant target that others cannot see. Because of that, you don't tend to take the beaten path. The beaten path is usually not for you unless you're trying to maybe change it in some way. So expressing yourself authentically to this eccentric, unorthodox nature that you tend to hold will be key to the way that your soul feels fulfilled and seen. And going back to what I said about physical movement earlier in the video, engage in maybe unorthodox physical movement, something that makes you feel embodied and empowered. Movement can be dancing. Like I mentioned, maybe you'll be interested in dance of some kind, but what kind of dancing resonates with you? It could be hip-hop dancing, it could be ballerina, like ballet classes. Maybe it's getting into musical theater, perhaps, or maybe it's even something more sensual like pole dancing, for example. Those are all considered more out there expressions. They're not just going to a gym and working out, which you may very much enjoy and need, but I'm talking about expressions that make you truly feel empowered in that nature of yours that doesn't walk the beaten path. Again, you also crave fun, joy, and expression. So all of these activities encourage that, and also encouraging that expression in your daily life, whether it be through the way that you dress, the way you do your hair, how you do your makeup if you wear makeup, or whether it's just through daily actions as well. Maybe you change up your daily routine in little ways that excite you. It doesn't have to be something huge, but encouraging and inviting your more outspoken, weird nature, off the beaten path nature will truly feel rewarding to you on a larger scale as time goes on. If you're a Sagittarius Sun or know somebody who is, don't forget to leave a comment down below talking about your own experience with Sagittarius. I love to know. But until I see you in the next video, thank you so much again for being here, taking the time to be here on my little corner of the internet. I am eternally grateful for you. Until next time, adios.